Hello and welcome to TheAIbumMan, and today I'm finally starting my summer Q&A, so thank you to everyone who has submitted questions. I will be answering them all, it is much appreciated. So, let us start at the beginning, and this is someone who I recognise has been, well, quite a long time viewer, Danny G683. And he has two questions. The first is, have you heard of Death Grips? Now, this is an interesting one, because the band Death Grips, they recently split up, and if you don't know who they are, they're sort of an experimental hip-hop group, I suppose. And many people seem to consider their best album, I think it's The Money Store, and I did listen to some of it when I heard they were breaking up, just to see why everyone was talking about them. And for hip-hop, it was okay, but it's not something I particularly really go out of my way to listen to. I can definitely respect what they're doing, and they're doing something more interesting than, you know, the average hip-hop stuff you hear on the radio, but it's certainly not really my type of thing. And the second question, do you like Talking Heads? Weirdly, I've never actually heard them. I've heard of them, of course, and they've been a band I'm meaning to check out. I just haven't heard any of their songs. I couldn't even name one song of theirs. Okay, and the next questions are from 7Man96. And he asks, do you like Creed? Oh, Creed, what a controversial band they are. A band often cited as one of the worst bands in rock's history, and product of Nickelback and all sorts of awful bands. I think they're pretty good. I do enjoy them. I mean, I love Alter Bridge, and I mean, the only difference between them and Alter Bridge is that they had Scott Stapp, whereas Alter Bridge has Miles Kennedy. And while I do prefer Alter Bridge, I think Creed are a good band. I think the album Weathered, in particular, really is a fantastic album. Just genuinely end-to-end killer album. I'm not too big when you get to that sort of that Human Clay stage. I don't think My Own Prison's particularly great. I think they went downhill really after Human Clay, but Weathered's certainly an album that's worth checking out. His next question is, do you think you'll be making videos in 3 years' time? Oddly specific time period to ask about, but I mean, it's a very difficult one to answer. I can't predict the future. I'm not an oracle, unfortunately. I mean, I'd certainly like it a bit. I have no intention of stopping making videos in the next 3 years, but it's hard. I mean, I'll be at uni in the next 3 years, or going to uni next year, and who knows, hopefully I'll still have time to make videos, but I honestly have no idea. And the last question, do you think modern albums have a lot of unnatural post-production? If so, what are your views on yes? Oh, yes, yes, and yes. I think modern albums have far too much unnatural post-production. I think the way that albums are mixed and mastered these days, it really isn't good. It's something I am going to be making a full video on. I want to really look at the topic and what's happened to reduction over the years. But the main thing, it's the dynamic range. You often hear the phrase brick walls, and if you don't know what that means, it effectively means that the song or album has no dynamic range. Now, why is this a problem? Well, it basically means it's been artificially made louder. So if you put it into a program where you can have a look at the sound waves, you see the waves they basically effectively look like a brick wall. You just see this grey, instead of being able to actually make them out and see them. It's very difficult to describe. I need to, you know, show, and that's what I plan to do when I make a full video looking at the issue. But I think the albums are unnecessarily loud, and it really is the rise of portable devices, I would say, and people listening to stuff on their phones through crappy headphones, and in order to make the album sound louder and sound a bit better on those devices, they sacrifice a lot of the audio fidelity, so when you listen to it on a decent hi-fi, it really just doesn't sound quite as good. It's why a lot of people like vinyl, because vinyl, you can't master it at as a higher volume as you can on CD, therefore it's a lot less of a problem. So, for a good example is the Ghost BC album Infestessimum, I think that's how you say it. On CD, that album is pretty awful. It's massively brick-walled, and the production's quite a bit off. But on the vinyl, many people say, oh, buy the vinyl, because the vinyl, it's you know, not really much of a problem at all. It's far better. And I certainly Judas Priest album Redeemer of Souls recently, and that was one where the production really was off, because it was just so loud. And I also think a lot of production nowadays, it sounds very fake and artificial. I mean, obviously there's exceptions. I think the job that Dave Cobb did on Rival Sons' Great Western Valkyrie, that was fantastic. And of course Steve Wilson, when he mixes and masters stuff, that doesn't tend to be brick walls at all, and that tends to be mixed very nicely. But a lot of things can sound a lot colder and cleaner and more artificial, and I think we do lose some of the depth and warmth of production of the olden times, I suppose. Lennon Wilhelm asks a question, a bit of an odd question I suppose, but could you do Paul is Dead Part 2? Now the thing about this is that, I mean, if you don't know, I did this series which I'm going to actually be continuing soon, so yeah, you find out more about that soon, called Rock Tales, where I look at some stories in rock music, and I started to look at the myth that Paul McCartney died in 1966, and I made a sort of a 20 minutes sort of documentary style thing about it. I don't know why I do a part 2. I concluded he wasn't dead. I don't know what else there is to say on it. It's my most popular video, if you don't know. It has over, I think, 16,000 views now, so yeah, by far my most popular. No, I'm not going to do a part 2. I don't see what I'd do. Okay, Cena Nation 7799 has a few questions. His first is, what is your favourite Green Day song ever? My favourite Green Day song would have to be either, I would lean towards more Jesus Suburbia, and then a close second, When September Ends, without a doubt. What is your favourite Beatles album? Well, as you'll find out in detail when I eventually continue my discography, which I will. It's Abbey Road, but I'm not going to provide the justification for that yet, as I will be going in a ridiculous amount of depth into why I find Abbey Road, the Beatles, the album of the Beatles, I find the most enjoyable. Okay, the last question here is, just hang a look, favourite song on each album by Green Day. Okay, I'm going to go through this one quickly. I have a list of my favourite songs from each album of Green Day. Let's make this quick. Okay, from 39/Smooth, Going to Pasalacqua. From Kaplunk, Welcome to Paradise. From Dookie, Basket Case. From Insomniac, Brain Stew. From Nimrod, Good Riddance, Time of Your Life. From Warning, Let's Eyes of Drag. From American Idiot, Jesus Suburbia. From 21st Century Breakdown, 21 Guns. From Uno, Stay the Night. From DOS, Lazy Bones. From Trey, Brutal Love. Done. I don't really listen to Green Day much anymore, but they did used to be my favourite band, hence why I was able to do the list. So Cena Nation 7799 and someone Kieran Stanfield asked a fairly similar question, so I thought I'd just address them in one, which is basically sort of who and what got you into rock music and classic rock in the first place. Well, a few different factors. I mean, my dad was a big part in influencing my musical taste. He grew up in the 80s and 70s and likes, well, a lot of the classic rock bands and the stuff I have behind me. I mean, that's, you know, so being exposed to that when I was younger, that's how I got a lot of my musical taste. But the type of bands that started getting me into classic rock, I mean, the first classic rock bands I would say that I got into were the Beatles. I had the Yellow Submarine song track, not the soundtrack, they're different. The song track has actual songs, whereas the soundtrack has half of it George R. R. Martin instrumental, not George R. R. Martin, George Martin. George R. R. Martin is a fantastic author. They love me a Song of Fire and Ice. But yeah, the Beatles, Queen, without a doubt, Electric Light Orchestra. I loved Mr. Blue Sky, though I didn't like the rest of their stuff. I remember I bought a Greatest Hits when I was younger. I loved Mr. Blue, and then I didn't like the rest. Obviously, later I got into ELO a lot. And then in general, some of the bands that got me to rap music, I talked about them a bit before, but bands like Busted, the Kaiser Chiefs, the Killers, Green Day, and My Chemical Romance, all, well, Kaiser Chiefs, their new album was actually pretty good, and the Killers I still listen to from time to time. And I still think Black Parade by My Chemical Romance is a fantastic album. I genuinely do. Killer record. But, you know, I hardly listen to Busted anymore. No, but they were bands that were very important to me getting into rock music. They were the stepping stones for me to start listening to weirder and cooler stuff. Okay, allmediareviews.blogspot.com asks, have you ever heard of Kevin Gilbert or his bands Toy Matinee, Giraffe, etc.? If so, what are your thoughts about his music? I have heard of Giraffe, actually, and I have vaguely heard of Kevin Gilbert. I decided to listen to a couple of tracks on the internet, and he died really young. I mean, he seemed to die at 29 of autoerotic asphyxiation. Yeah, very young. But I mean, the stuff seemed quite proggy, and the musically it seemed alright. I can't say I liked his voice at all. I really no, I didn't particularly like his voice, but it seems alright. Morgan Davis asks, what is your favourite Status Quo albums and song? Well, my favourite Quo album, I would say, is Hello or Blue for You. Quite possibly the live one, actually. All three of those are fantastic Quo albums. But studio, I'd probably lean towards Hello, and live, well, the live one, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the classic Quo live album. And my favourite song, definitely Pictures of Matchstick Men. I just think that's one of the best songs of the late 60s psychedelic period. I think it's just amazing. That guitar riff, so simple, but genius. I think it's really catchy, really psychedelic. I mean, I love psychedelic music, I really do, and I think that song, it's up there with songs like Apples and Oranges, is just by Pink Floyd. It's just some of the most fun and awesome psychedelic songs. So yeah, definitely Pictures of Matchstick Men. And you also ask, will you do a Status Quo review of one of the older albums, like Hello or On the Level? Well, I put Hello in my magic envelope so that could get drawn in a random review. Who knows? Okay, the fantastic YouTuber EQPTV has asked me quite a few questions, so let's start at the beginning. First, and this is a really interesting one, what are your thoughts on IDM, intelligent dance music, music by artists such as Aphex Twins and Burial? Now, when it comes to more electronically driven music, firstly, I find it a very difficult genre overall to enjoy. I mean, it took me so many listens of Radiohead's Kid A to get into that, let alone when you get into instrumental electronic albums, things that just have even less melody than Kid A. But I certainly appreciate the talent and skill in intelligent dance music, and in particular Aphex Twins. I have listened to some of their stuff before because I often hear them heralded as one of the great bands, really. And I can definitely appreciate what they do. It's not something I particularly go out of my way to listen to, but when it comes to electronic music, I think it's pretty decent. Maybe I might pick up one of their albums one day for, is it really cheap? I'm not sure. Burial, I have heard bits of, and I can't say I was too keen on Burial, really. But again, it's a genre I respect, and maybe I think it's one of those I really need to just find a band that I connect to. I just haven't found that yet. Maybe one day I will just find that band that will be my gateway, like Opeth was into growlium or death metal style vocal. I just needed that entrance to get into death metal, and Opeth was that. Maybe I will for electronic music one day. It's hard to know. Secondly, he asks, what artist / band do you have the biggest collection of? It's a tough one. I mean, I'm not someone who ever has a particularly, I don't have particularly big collections of any bands particular. I mean, when it comes to Guns N' Roses, I just have the albums. I don't have, the LP versions and this version and that version. I just have them on CD, I have to say. But the collection, I suppose, that big is Dream Theater. I do have all their studio albums, most of their live albums as well, so I have quite a lot of Dream Theater related stuff. The Beatles, I have quite a bit of. I have a few of their albums on vinyl. I have their whole discography on CD, the past masters and stuff. Magnum as well, I have quite a lot of Bob Dylan in particular. Here's the one I'm really collecting for at the moment, trying to get all the bootlegs, all the albums, and ideally I would like the first the first albums up to John Wesley Harding on mono vinyl. That would be damn cool. I also have, for Dylan, of course, I also have his 2 books in my collection. Tarantula, his work of fiction, that he wrote in the 60s. That is a weird book, to say the least. And also Chronicles, his sort of autobiographical book. Who are some of your favourite bands on the heavier end of the musical spectrum? Now, I mean, the thing about this, our definitions of heavy could differ somewhat. I think what you consider heavy would be a lot heavier than what I consider heavy. But the bands, I suppose, at the heavier end, well, bands I've been getting into recently that I picked up, and I'll talk more about that in my next CDs and vinyl, I think. Iron Monkey. I picked up their album, found it for £1 at Car Boot, so I've been listening to Iron Monkey. Iron Monkeys Are Problems. Iron Monkey are a pretty damn heavy sludge metal band. Their vocals, wow, I don't think I understood a single word of what the singer was saying for that entire album, but the riffs, they're just killer. So I've been listening to that. A lot of At the Gates, I've been picking up a lot of At the Gates recently. Again, haven't shown it yet, but I will. I think I have 3. I think I have Slaughter of the Soul, Terminal Spirit Disease, another one, and compilations. I have quite a few At the Gates albums, and I'm thinking of going to see them when they tour in December, really getting into them, which is odd because I don't particularly like melodic death metal, but hey, I actually like At the Gates. Dillinger Escape Plan, I mean, you could say they're not that heavy. Some of their songs seem quite heavy to me. Prancer, to me, seems a pretty heavy song, and in general. Who else? I suppose Behemoth, their latest album, The Satanist, that was an uncharacteristic album that I really like. Woods of Veep, I mean, the early Woods of Veep can get quite heavy. Isis, I would argue, can get quite heavy at times, though. I don't know if they're that extreme. Slayer, fairly heavy. Opeth, of course. Winter Sun, I've been getting into as a band with growlier vocals, I suppose, and a few others, but also I've picked up some Dark Throne, which I can't say I like at all, and Morbid Angel, which I think was alright. I didn't mind Morbid Angel, but I need to listen to some Death at the moment. That's the band I need to pick something up, maybe Symbolic, I was thinking. Yeah, I think Death could be an interesting one. Last 3 questions from what are your thoughts on the new Swans album, To Be Kind? It's currently my album of the year. For me, I haven't actually heard it. I know, it sounds awful. I haven't heard Swans, To Be Kind. I've heard bits and bobs from it, I admit. But it's one of those I just need to just get the time to just dedicate 2 hours or however bloody long it is and just listen to it. Just that, nothing else. Just completely focus on To Be Kind. So I just need to get some time just arranged to just block out everything else, just listen to Be Kind and really try and understand the album. By what I've heard, it sounds interesting. I don't know if it'll end up being one of my albums of the year, but who knows, it could surprise me, and I definitely look forward to hearing it. I think that's going to be an interesting one. I want my thoughts on Tool, my favourite album by them. My thoughts on Tool, I think they're a decent band. I do think they're a tad overrated. I think James Maynard Keenan is a little overrated. But I really enjoy Enema from time to time. I think it's Enema, I don't know. But that album, the one with Hooker with a penis on it, that song title just every time makes me laugh. What a great song title. I've picked up Lateralus, which I'm going to listen to, as I often hear that as one of the greatest metal albums, or whatever you want to call it, of all time. Lastly, my favourite Opeth record. As much as I would love to say, oh, my favourite Opeth record is Morning Rise, it's not. It's Blackwater Park. What else can I say? Blackwater Park. Hands down. As good as their other albums are. I would say second goes to Reverie, is third, probably Still Alive. And, you know, we can go on from there, but they're my top 3, certainly. Okay, and I think that is all we'll have time for this first part of my Q&A. And the second part will obviously have more questions, but it would be a pretty crap second part of the Q&A if it didn't. So yes, if your question hasn't been answered yet, then I will be answering it in part 2. Yeah, so join me then. This has been TheAIbumMan. Thanks for watching, comment, subscribe, and as usual, I can just knock CDs off bars. Long live rock and roll.